Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hi friends, I am once again here to discuss personal attributes under the caption interpersonal skills. We all know that how important interpersonal skills, and to excel in the professional life, what is required to improve, to develop interpersonal skills. Now let us discuss what is personal attributes. And what are the difference between the personal trait and the interpersonal skill, and then the soft skill and the hard skill. The difference between personal traits and interpersonal skills is personal skills are where it is defined as an ability and attribute. Personal skills can be categorized into two. One is hard skills, that is technical skills, and the other is soft skill. Soft skills are the attributes of our personality, and soft skill aid us in interaction with others, which are related to our attribute such as emotions, habits, responsibility, etc. Relationships are built using soft skills. Hard skills, on the other hand, are specific attributes related to performing a certain task, and the hard skills are mostly absorbed by individual education and experience. Hard skills are things like language proficiency, driving skills, subject proficiency, etc. And such skills determine the employability and help an employer to assign responsibilities and tasks. In the book titled The Art of Management, which is based on the American TV serial of the same name, William Weber says that the people are the main cause of success or failure of the company. It is necessary to understand people as well as their mutual relations. And in the same book, John Bisley points out that almost all the problems in business are linked to interpersonal relations in one or another way. See how important it is. Don't you realize that it should be developed on the proper line? The executive, except from the need to convey their message to others, should be able to listen to other people's problems, get rid of their own prejudices, and get to know themselves. According to James Hall, regulation of the human relation is the most important art that a manager should possess. Soft skills are increasingly becoming the hard skills for today's youth. While your technical skills may get your foot in the door of opportunities, your people skills are what open most of the doors to come. Your work ethic, your attitude, your communication skills, your emotional intelligence, and a whole host of other personal attributes are the soft skills that ensure your holistic development. The main characteristics of interaction is mutual relations. Two persons have formed mutual relation when they are in frequent interactions. By interaction, it is understood that the people show certain activity in mutual presence, create product for each other, or communicate among themselves. In any case, with interaction, there is at least a possibility that the activity of each person influence the activities of the other person. A lot of factors influence interpersonal relations. But the personality is the key phenomenon for explanation of these relations. Since the features of the personality determine all man's activities in the greatest extent, they will have deciding role in its interpersonal relation. Now the question is, what is personality? Number of definitions are available to define personality. But I think the aptest one is that personality refers to a person's general way of thinking, feeling, and behaving based on underlying motivations and impulses. These underlying motivations and impulses form our personality traits. Personality traits are underlying, but they are fairly enduring once a person reaches adulthood. That is not to say that people's personalities do not change, but major changes in personality are not common unless they result from some form of trauma. Now, what are the 5 personality traits which we may call the big 5 personality traits? The first is extroversion. Refers to a person's interest in interacting with others. People with high extroversion are sociable and often called extroverts. People with low extroversion are less sociable and are often called introverts. Second is agreeableness, and it refers to a person's level of trustworthiness and friendliness. People with high agreeableness are cooperative and likable. People with low agreeableness are suspicious of others and sometimes aggressive, which makes it more difficult for people to find them pleasant to be sound. Consciousness refers to a person's level of self-organization and motivation. People with high consciousness are methodical, motivated, and dependable. People with low consciousness are less focused, less careful, and less dependable. Neuroticism, what it is? It refers to a person's level of negative thoughts regarding himself or herself. People high in neuroticism are insecure and experience emotional distress and may be perceived as unstable. People low in neuroticism are more relaxed, have less emotional swings, and are perceived as more stable. Openness refers to a person's willingness to consider new ideas and perspectives. People high in openness are creative and are perceived as open-minded. People low in openness are more rigid and set in their thinking and are perceived as set in their ways. Well, these are the 5 big traits of personality which we can take care of while talking about interpersonal skill and also an enhanced personality. However, the link between the interpersonal relations and personality is not entirely scrutinized by determining only the influence of a personality on the interpersonal relations, because the interpersonal relations determine the personality. Therefore, we are going to look at the link between the interpersonal relations and personality in 2 ways. The first is influence of personality on interpersonal relations and influence of interpersonal relations on personality in both the ways. Interpersonal skills are an important aspect of one's personality. In simple words, it means a congenial and a pleasant interaction of people with others. The various psychological factors that exist within every human being and which consequently influence our behavior while interacting with others are referred to as interpersonal skills. And it is very important to know while discussing personality, that what is interpersonal skill and how it is related to our personality. Those possessing effective interpersonal skills are capable of appropriately communicating with different people who possess a variety of personality traits. Since this skill is constantly evaluated by everyone concerned, co-workers to superior, it has an important role in one's career growth. Behavioral traits of interpersonal skills, because when we talk of personal attribute, personal trait, it indicates the behavioral traits. Though these interpersonal skills are to some extent inherent in oneself, they can be nurtured and developed with effort. To cultivate interpersonal skills, the necessary personality and behavior traits are resolving conflict. Often there are chances of interpersonal conflict if a number of people work together on a project. One can make a mark in such cases by being an effective mediator who takes a neutral position. The main concern in such instances should be to look at the overall interest of the organization without creating any bitterness in the people or team that hold opposing views. One also has to convince the people about the rationale behind the right decision that benefits the organization. One who possesses such interpersonal skills to resolve conflicts get noticed, since he makes the organization realize that he can take an objective view considering only the organization's benefit. The second is a smiling face. A smiling face is always preferable to a gloomy coffee pot face. When dealing with teammates, one can get great results just with the help of a cool demeanor and a smiling face. It costs nothing, but pays much to keep a cheerful attitude. It can create an infectious aura within the team, leading to a positive, energizing and productive ambience. Next is appreciative attitude. If one wants to get the best out of teammates and co-workers, one should appreciate the work the team members have been doing. A small pat in the back or a simple remark such as "well done," "way to go," "carry on the good work," etc. can go a long way to increase their enthusiasm and prompt them to work more efficiently. Assertive nature, this is also one of the important traits. Even when appreciating others, one should be assertive. One should be very specific, clearly stating the expectation and the reasons behind it, or else it may come across as hollow and superficial. The view should be asserted firmly without being rude. Communication skill, which is the soul of personal attribute and interpersonal skills. This is one of the most important skills. Communicating without ambiguity is the cornerstone of strong performers and leaders. It is possible to avoid many conflicts and Be an effective leader by communicating crisply. Listening skills. While communicating with anyone, proper attention should be paid to what others have to say. Listening is a vital skill. It plays an important role in improving relationships and teaming in a corporate setting. Developing empathy. The word empathy simply means to understand and appreciate another person's position. These are all important personal attributes. In other words, it implies putting oneself in somebody else's shoes and trying to understand how one would have felt if he were in the same position as the recipient of the situation. According to Boris Pez, there are 4 main forms that become noticeable in interpersonal relations in an organization. What are these? Cooperation and corroboration, competition, competence and competitiveness, domination and submission. Cooperation and competition represent the relations between the coordinated members, while submission and domination represent the form of interpersonal relation which result from the real or formal hierarchy of the organization of a collective. Complexity of interpersonal relations derives from the complexity of the human nature, either regarded as a biopsychological structure or as a socio-historical reality. These relations cannot be derived isolated from any of these aspects of human nature, but from the unity that exists among them. According to adages, the world is made in such a way so that everything exists in one functional totality, and that totality functions for the purpose of satisfying the needs of its components. Interpersonal relation depends equally from the position of a person in the human community and the personal experience of that position, and the psychological mechanisms that react to that position. There was an unparalleled predominance in research work of the personality itself than of interpersonal relations. Levinson, Heller, and others tried to determine the connection between the culture and the interpersonal relations. Cratch, Cratchfield, and Balaki start from the basic statement that the behavior of an individual is determined by the features of his interpersonal reactions towards other persons. According to them, manifestations of these characteristics important for interpersonal relations is most closely linked to the way of satisfying the needs. The particular satisfying of needs and the way the process is performed occupies the central point in expressing the features that become apparent in interpersonal relations. Psychiatrist Karen Horney focuses her scientific commitment on the socio-cultural factors that influence human mental health, behavior, and interpersonal relations. Horney regards bad interpersonal relations as a source of neurotic disorders. The basis of the interaction is imitation, suggestion, sympathy and antipathy, identification, group pressure, and facilitation with inhibition. In that way, a social climate, that is atmosphere, is made as a state of psychological relations of the members of the same social group and their relation towards the group as a whole. Influence of a personality on interpersonal relation needs to be discussed. So, personality represents a key phenomenon for explanation of interpersonal relations. Humans' activities determine the feature of personality to the largest extent, and accordingly they have deciding role in its interpersonal relations. Depending on the way we understand personality, we are going to regard the influence of the personality on the interpersonal relations in the same way. Perception of a personality as a collection of multitude of features requires that a research should be directed towards finding those characteristics of the personality that are important for the interpersonal relations. If we start from the point that all the characteristics of a person can be categorized as one type, then from the definition of a type come the characteristics of the interpersonal behavior as well. That is, the type of personality determines interpersonal relations. Psychoanalytical theory of the personality has made the greatest contribution to the research of the influence of the types of personality on the interpersonal relations. Sigmund Freud gave a definition of 3 types of personality which are believed not to depict just the pathological but also normal personalities. The main characteristic of a narcissist type is the absence of tension between ego and superego. And erotic needs are not strongly expressed. This type is independent, hard to frighten, focus on self-defense. He accepts the leader role and endeavors to be loved rather than love himself. Obsessive type is characterized by supremacy of ego over superego and the presence of tension. These types feature greater inner than outer dependence. They developed high level of self-confidence. The main characteristic of erotic type is its endeavor to be liked. For him, the most important thing in the world is love, but primarily that he should be loved. He becomes dependent on those persons who can stop loving him, and he is mainly influenced by fear of losing love. According to Erich Fromm, there are also 3 types of personality: tendency to withdrawal and destruction is characteristic of the first type of personality. Withdrawal is the basic form of relations with other people. This personality is featured by superficial interest and absence of a powerful social motive. He wants to be distanced in relation to other people. He strives to destroy others from fear of being destroyed by others. The other type is characterized by symbiotic form of relations with other people. In this case, the dependence on other people is underlined. This person avoids danger of loneliness, merging with another person, either to be swallowed from the other person or by means of swallowing the other person. The first is called masochism, which is the attempt to escape from freedom and to achieve the safety by merging with another individual. The other case is called a sadistic endeavor, which is the wish for a complete command over the other persons. In symbiotic relation, the approach to other person is paid by loss of freedom and integrity. Tendency of moving against people is the type with who predominates aggressive traits of personality. Aggressive type takes for granted that everybody is in adversary mood and refuses to accept the contrary. For him, the life is a battle of everybody against everybody. The third neurotic tendency is moving away from people. Everyone sometimes wants to be alone. The wish to be alone is the indication of a neurotic retreat only when there is unbearable tension in socializing with people, and the loneliness is a means to avoid the strain. It is alienation from people, and here the human relations are distorted. The second characteristic is alienation from oneself. The main need of such types is to place emotional distance between themselves and the rest of the world. They don't wish to be emotionally engaged neither in love nor in battle, not in cooperation or in context. Its strongest needs are self-sufficiency, loneliness, and need for total independence. Intimately, they do not obey to the rules of behavior and don't accept traditional values. The question with which they approach people is, will he disturb me? Will he desire to make influence on me or let me be? Interpersonal relations, except of being dependent on the personality characteristics, interpersonal relations significantly influence the process of personality formation and on the development of its important features. The way of interpersonal relations influence on the personality can be seen in the best way by scrutinizing the relation between the atmosphere in the family and the personality characteristics of the young members of the family. Many tests have shown that in the families where a high level of personal freedom of children was allowed, they often develop the independence and initiative. Rapid intellectual development was observed with these children. They are emotionally secure and less irritable. In the families where the parents take a stance of active refusal and where there are repressive relations of parents towards children, these children develop dependence and submissiveness. The intellectual development of these is more slowly. They are emotionally unstable, aggressive, and quarrelsome. Now, what are the features of interpersonal reactions? The second orientation of the influence of personality on the interpersonal relations starts from the fact that two individuals are not characterized by one homogeneous style of relations with other persons, but by multitude of features of interpersonal reaction. Each individual, by chance and by crucial influence of heritage and personal experience, develops a characteristic set of lasting dispositions for relations with other individuals. There is a rather large number of consistent and lasting dispositions on which, of course, depends reactions towards other people. Now, the features of interpersonal reactions that most commonly appeared should be highlighted. What are these? Dispositions for roles represent the features that are linked to the way the individual realizes his role in relation with other people. These are superiority, social shyness, sure of oneself, does not keep his mouth shut, clears the way by force. Second is dominance, submissiveness, self-assured, persistent, gravitating towards power. Third is social initiative, social passivity, organizes group, gives proposals at gatherings, takes leadership. And fourth is independence, dependence, likes to perform job in his way, does not look for advice, emotionally self-sufficient. Sociometric disposition comprise the features of interpersonal reactions that primarily speaks of its affection for others, his confidence in others, his interest for others. The persons of this kind come easily into close relations with other people and tend to be apt at managing the human relations. These can be classified into such dispositions. First, acceptance of others, refusal of others inclined to acquiescence, believes and confident, predicts weakness. Second is sociableness, unsociableness, with people helpful attitude. Third is kindness, unkindness, open and accessible, good natured, easily approaches others, make many social connections. And the fourth one is sympathetic, unsympathetic, of kind and warm hearted behavior. Expressive dispositions include the features of interpersonal reactions by means of which individual expresses himself in relations with others. So, the characteristic of expressive dispositions, what are these characteristics? Competitiveness, uncompetitiveness, glorifies himself, finds a cause for competition in every relationship, cannot cooperate. The second is aggressiveness, non-aggressiveness, quarrelsome, attacks others, shows ill-tempered disposition towards government. Third is preoccupied with himself. Social balance differs from jitters, uncertain whether to take part in group discussion, does not like to be watched by others at work. Fourth is exhibitionist, reserved. It stands out and behaves in an unusual way in order to attract attention, requires recognition and applause. Description of personality represents a main source of data for determining and measuring of interpersonal reaction. The main features of interpersonal reactions are sorted out by factors analysis. When we know what the features of the interpersonal reactions of one individual are, we can predict quite a great part of its behavior towards other individuals, even its activity that are not strictly of social character. However, making a list of the characteristics of interpersonal reactions of an individual is not sufficient, since these individuals differ in many dimensions. These characteristics are stability, energetic manifestation, consistency, and structure. Stability denotes that the characteristics of the interpersonal reaction can be rather stable in the course of time. Energetic manifestation of a characteristic of interpersonal behavior relates to the level to which it is expressed in the individual behavior. If the energetic manifestation of the characteristics more general, its role in determining behavior is more decisive. Consistency as a characteristic of interpersonal reaction is as larger as it enables us to predict the behavior of the individual under observation. The level of consistency is measured by the average intercorrelation between the scores of that characteristics in various circumstances where it is manifested. Except of the hereditary basis, the development of personality is influenced not only by cultural and social circumstances, but by interpersonal relations. They are an important factor for the development of personality, especially in early childhood. During individualization, the influence of interpersonal relations to personality development is smaller. The same influence on a mature personality is still smaller. Now, personality with its interpersonal characteristics influences interpersonal relations with a creative approach to other people, satisfying its needs and the needs of others. Interpersonal relations very often act in the direction of making a uniformity modeled personality, but how successfully they will prove depends very much on the particular person. A part of that interpersonal relations offer to individuals many incentives for development of their individuality. For now, thank you very much. See you soon.